Hey everybody, welcome back. This video is going to be looking at using working out percentages using multipliers. We're going to look at what multipliers are and different ways of representing them, and hopefully get using calculator methods as well. Now before you start, I need you to simplify the following fractions, and I want you to use the method that you can see on the screen here. So you're going to split the numerator and denominator into factor pairs and then cancel them out as you go down. So the first one's done for you. Pause the video and then we're going to work through the rest together. Okay, so I hope you've had a go at least 5 or 6 of these questions. I'll do the first one here for you so we can see the biggest factor that goes into 90 and 100 is 10. So 10 times 9 over 10 times 10. We can cancel the 10s out because they're common factors, and that's going to be 9 over 10. Now the remaining ones, the answers are on the screen here. As long as you've got the final fraction and you've shown how you've cancelled it out, give yourself a mark out of how many you've done. And we're going to go straight now into multipliers. So when we're talking about multipliers, we can represent them in different ways. So we can look at fractions out of 100. We can look at simplified fractions, which are equivalent to these fractions, and then the decimal equivalent as well. So 50% of 1 is actually equivalent to 50 out of 100. Now we can simplify that fraction, not always, but in this case we can, and we know when we simplify it we're going to get half. And then we can convert this into a decimal. Sometimes it's easier to use this fraction to visualize the simplification, sometimes it's easier to use this one. In this case, hopefully it's fairly obvious, it's going to be 0.5. So you're going to do the same for the next 2 examples here. And you're going to work out what goes in the blanks. Pause the video and have a go. Jot this down on your notes and then I'm going to show you the answer. Okay, so you should have had a go on this. Now here we're going to start with 25 over 100. So we know that's 25% because it's split into 100 parts and you had 25 of those, that's 25%. 100 equal parts, I should say. So to simplify the fraction, we know that 25 goes into 25 and 25 goes into 100. So that's going to be 1 over 4, it's a quarter. And as a decimal, I think this one slightly easier to use. 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. Okay, the last one, 0.03. Well, we know that's going to be 3 over 100. Because 3 divided by 100 is 0.03, and actually we can't simplify it any more than it already is, so it's already simplified, 3 over 100, and that should make it clear that this is going to be 3%. So 0.03 is 3%. A common misconception is people might say that's 30%. It's not 30%, it's 3%, and we'll look at that over the course of this video. So here's your first exercise to try. Pause the video, have a go with these questions. Just remember that these fractions are always going to be out of 100. So you may get some fractions in this column where the numerator is a decimal. That is fine for this example, for this exercise. And just remember to use the clues given in these columns to work these out. Pause the video, have a go. Okay, so I hope you've had a go with all of these questions. I'm now going to go through these one by one. So firstly, 10% of 1 is 10 over 100, which is 1 over 10, 0.1. 0.3 is going to be 30%, which is 30 over 100, and that simplifies to 3 over 10. Here, 1 over 20. Now we need to multiply the top and bottom by 5. So from there, we're going to see it's 5%, it's 5 over 100, 0.05. 0.85 is 85%, which is 85 over 100, which is simplify to 17 over 20 because you can divide top and bottom by 5. 18 over 25. Now in this case we're going to actually multiply the top and bottom by 4 over 4. So that will give me 72 over 100, which is 72%, 0.72. 9% is 9 over 100. That doesn't simplify, so it's 0.09 as a decimal. 21 over 200. Now this time we're going to have to divide the top and bottom by 2. So we will end up with a decimal here because 21 is not an even number. You're going to get 10.5 over 100. You wouldn't normally leave it like that, but when you're working out, you can have that. So 10.5 over 100, which is 10.5%, and that's 0.105. Now the way you're going to get from here to here is you're going to do 10.5 divided by 100, and you can see when you do that, the decimal, the place value moves over twice, and that gives you 0.105. Okay, so for the next one we have 999 over 1000. That is, we had simplified top and bottom by dividing by 100, both the numerator and the denominator. That gives you 99.9, which is 99.9%, and that's 0.999. And for 1 over 200, divide the top and the numerator and denominator by 2 to get a half over 100, so it's 0.5%. Now 0.5 divided by 100 is 0.005. I hope you did well with that. We're going to move on to the next part of this lesson. So what's the same and what's different between these two questions? 50% of 4 and 40% of 50. So have a think about this. You've probably noticed the most obvious similarity is the 50 and the 40. And the difference is the fact that they've been swapped over. Now you should know in maths, of means multiply. And you know from year 7 that when you multiply two things together, A times B is equal to B times A. So 50% of 40 is equal to 40% of 50. And we can show that using decimal representations, or let's use fractions this time. 50% is 50 over 100. 40% is 40 over 100. Now 40 as a fraction is just 40 over 1. 50 as a fraction is 50 over 1. Hopefully this should make it clear when we're multiplying fractions. 50 times 40 all over 100, and this is 40 times 50 all over 100. You're going to get the same answer. So if you try this with any other combination, you're going to see this also works. So for example, picking random numbers here, 20% of 70 is equivalent to 70% of 20. 5% of 80 is equal to 80% of 5. Okay, so it's just a really interesting thing to know about this. It's just the commutative law. Right, here's an exercise for you to try where you are converting from a fraction to a decimal representation, or in this case it might be from a decimal to a percentage. So pause the video, have a go, and we're going to go through these. You do not need to work out the actual value of the answer, it's just the missing values. Alright, so I hope you've had a go with this. So we can see 25% is going to be 25 over 100. 12% of £1.50. The amount we're looking at doesn't change here, so that becomes 12 over 100. Question 3, well 1 over 100 is 1%, and this is going to stay as 3 over 5. 12 over 100 is 12%, and that's going to stay as 1440. 15% of 10 is 15 over 100 times 10, and 10% of 15 is 10 over 100 times 15. You may have spotted question 5 and 6 are actually looking at the commutative property here. So we're actually just swapping around the percentages and the amounts. It will give you the same answer. Okay, so this is the main highlight to remind yourself when we're looking at percentages of amounts. This is called a decimal percentage multiplier, because you can see it's 65% of 72. Now we can represent that as a fraction as well, and a fraction multiplier would be 65 over 100 times 72. Now both of those calculations are the same. And then finally, this is the one we want to become proficient at here. This is a new way of looking at this. We can also just do 0.65 times 72, and this is called the decimal multiplier. And the decimal multiplier is the one we're going to use when we use our calculators. Really, really important, very quick, much quicker to put 0.65 times 72 on a calculator than the other two options. So jot this down. These are a really key part of this topic here. Okay, so looking at the next thing. Now, an efficient method when we have a calculator. So when you have a calculator, there is an easier way of working this out. So without a calculator, you might do 100% here, which is 72. You might work out 10%. You might work out 60%, and then 5%, and then add the 60% and the 5%. However, since we now have a calculator, we're going to turn this calculation from a percentage multiplier into a decimal multiplier. So we know 65% is equivalent to 0.65 of means times, and 72 is just going to stay as 72. This is where we bring in the calculator. So here we're going to put in 0.65 times 72, press equals. Now you can leave your answer as a fraction. In this specific example, we're going to change it. So we're going to press format, down to decimal, press OK, and we can see it's 46.8. So we have equals 46.8, and you can see how much quicker it is on the calculator. If you were to ask me to work out this percentage and you gave me a calculator, this is exactly how I would do it, and this is how you're going to practice doing it as well. So here's the next question. This is, we're not working out the values, we're just going to work out what would you put in your calculator to work this out. So the first example I'm going to help you with. To work this out, we're going to do 0.23 times 70. I'm going to do it in one go. Right. Think about what you'd put to work out these following calculations, and then I'm going to show you the answer. Okay, for question 2, you're going to get 0.99 times 87.2. For question 3, we're going to get, now we need to, when we have that percentage sign, we're dividing it by 100. So 3.5 divided by 100, 0.035 times 24. And then 1%, which is 0.01 times 1. So those are the calculations that we're going to be using now with a calculator to work out the following answers. So pause the video on this exercise and have a go at working out what goes in the blanks here. You actually will not need a calculator for this exercise. It's going to be the one that's coming up later. So pause the video, have a go. Okay, I hope you've paused the video. I hope you've had a go. Here come the answers. You can self-check this as we go through it. So you're going to get 26, 18%, 0.62, 3%, 67, 0.08, 0.0, that should say 0.125, and then we've got 0.145 times 980. Those are your calculations. Make sure you feed back to yourself how you've done. Okay, so here's a true or false activity. To find 45% of 25, I multiply 0.45 by 25. True or false? So 45% is 0.45, of is times, so we are multiplying, and then 25 is your amount, so this is true. Make a decision about question B. Is this true or false? Okay, I hope you've spotted that 6% is actually 0.06 and this is 0.6, so this does not work because it's not the correct amount. This actually is 60%, so we're going to say that is false. It should be 0.06. To find 15% of $6, I multiply 6 by 0.15. True or false? Okay, so 15% is 0.15 and we are multiplying it by 6. This is just the commutative law. You can multiply in any order. So yeah, this is true. True or false, question D. Alright, to find 35% of 11, I divide 35 by 11. That's correct. So 35 over 100, not 11, sorry. 35 over 100 is 0.35. It's a slightly longer way of doing it. If you had a calculator, you'd just put 0.35 and then yes, you multiply by 11. So this would work. Okay, so those are the true or false questions. Now there's an exercise for you to do here. And in this exercise, you are going to be using your calculator and you are going to be working out the actual final answer. So I'll do the first one for you as an example. 15% of 26 is 0.15 times 26. So let's put that on a calculator. 0.15 times 26 equals, and then we're going to change the format. Now you can probably do this in your head, this bit, but I'm going to just show you just in case you don't know how to change your format. Press format, down, decimal, 3.9 is your answer. So you get 3.9 as your first answer. Now because it's money, we're going to make sure we have to have the decimals and the 0 at the end. If it wasn't money, if it was just 26 as a number, then you would leave it as 3.9. So pause the video and have a go with all of these questions, and then I'm going to show you the answers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, here come the answers. So that's going to be 0.18. It's going to be 4% of 31. 8% is 0.08. For question 5, you should get £21.76. Question 6 is 2% of 840. Question 7, 0.74. Question 8 is 0.135 times 54. Question 9 is 2.3%, not 23%. Be careful about that, common mistake. And then the last one, 0.6% is not 60%, is 0.006. So that's going to give you 612 grams. Okay, now the final exercise. This is a bit longer. This is worded questions. Have a look at reading all of these questions here. And then I'm going to go through the answers bit by bit. Now these questions are a bit longer. You have to show you're working out. You have to show what you put in your calculator on your page. Okay, so I'm now going to show you the solutions. I'm not going to work through them entirely, but just some answers for you to look at. So for question 1, 5% of £12.80 is what we wanted to find. Mark your own work here. For question 2, Now, each paper has a maximum mark of 80. Sam needs to get at least 60% of the total. The total is 160 marks because there's 2 lots of 80. So here's your work. You want 60% of 160 because that's 2 lots of 80. So she needs 96 marks. And then on paper 1, because Sam got 55%, that means they got 44 marks, and then that means to get up to 96, there's 52 marks left remaining that Sam needs to get. For question 3, here's the solution. Work out how many parts there are. Now this type of question, it's really important to draw a box diagram. So it would look like this, 2 to 3, and we know that the total amount is 250. We can then work out what goes in each individual box. We're going to do 250 divided by 5, so that's 50 in each box. Which is what we've done here. And then I should, of course, label this R and H. And then we're working out a percentage of, you can see H gets 150, R gets 100. So then we're working out percentages of each. And then finally the difference between the two. And finally question 4, we can see that this is going to be the working out here. You can pause the video and have a look through it. So we should get £1.21. Okay, just before I leave you, by estimating, so this means we're not using a calculator, decide which of these you would prefer, as in which amount is going to give you the biggest answer. I'm going to leave you with that and you can make a decision, and then use your calculator to see if you're right. Try not to spend too long on it. The whole point is to estimate. We're not working this out accurately, just by eye, which one appears to give you the most amount. Okay, hit subscribe, smash the like button. I'll see you in the next video.